Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Edna.
And I'm Carain. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. MTR admitted construction issues at Yeung Station, but insisted no signs of steel bars being deliberately cut.
Anger for To Ko Wan residents as influx of mainland tour groups disrupts neighborhood.
And death toll for Indonesian tsunami climbs to 281 as authorities warn of more waves.
The MTR Corporation has admitted construction quality issues at the Yeung Station extension project, but insisted they do not necessarily lead to safety issues.
The railway giant also pinned the blame on main contractor Leighton, adding it would not rule out taking legal action against the construction firm. It's been over a week since inspections began at Yeung Station, where a massive expansion is underway to prepare for the launch of the shut into Central Link. The preliminary results were worrying. Out of 10 coupler connections inspected so far, 6 of them were found to be below standards. The embedded length of one bar was 6 millimeters, a far cry from the 40 millimeters if it was completely screwed in. Giving the latest updates today, MTRC Managing Director Jacob Kam admitted disparity in construction quality. However, Kam insisted the construction issues did not necessarily endanger structural integrity of the works.
We believe we have to wait until the third stage, the stage of detailed structural analysis, including a consolidation of all the findings and information and data that we obtained from the first 2 stages. And only at that stage, the third stage of detailed analysis, we can answer, we can be assured whether the structure is safe and sound.
Kam again stressed that there were no signs the reinforcement bars had been trimmed. The railway giant also said main contractor Leighton must own up to the construction issues, adding it would not rule out taking legal actions against the firm. But questions remain on whether ultrasound inspections were reliable or enough to detect deficiencies. On radio this morning, lawmaker and former railway boss Michael Tian, as well as subcontractor Jason Poon, both felt the method was sketchy. They suggested the couplers and bars should be unscrewed and checked physically for faults. Their suggestion was quickly shot down by engineer Yeung Ping, the independent expert hired by the MTRC to oversee the inspections. Yeung said the suggestion was not reasonably practicable and called such a method extremely destructive. A total of 80 locations would be opened up, exposing 168 couplers connection for inspections.
'Tis the season to be jolly, but not for some residents from To Ko Wan and Yeung, whose daily lives have been severely disrupted after large numbers of mainland tour groups swarmed the neighborhoods.
A political party is calling for measures to regulate the activities of these so-called budget tour groups, or even restrict their number in the long run. Filled with aging buildings, factories and workshops, To Ko Wan is one neighborhood one would least imagine to be appealing to tourists. But somehow hundreds of mainland tour groups call it their destination every day. The nuisance caused by the tourists is becoming unbearable to local residents lately. They sometimes talk very loudly, and the tour guides would use megaphones to give directions, this annoyed resident said. She added the tour groups begin to show up as early as 6 a.m. and the area becomes even more crowded during lunch hours. Another resident complained with the tourists occupying the pavement. He is forced to weave through traffic on the roads while pushing his mother on a wheelchair. The coaches always ignore traffic rules, this man said. They would double park or even pull up wherever they want.
Of course, every tourist will bring the economic benefit to our society, but we cannot only look at the economic benefit, right? We have to balance. We have to have a well balance. From what we understand, from what we have experienced, we can see that all these lower price tours do cause a lot of nuisance to the local community.
Pro-Beijing DAB party pointed out most of the mainland tourists in the area belong to so-called budget tour groups, and their itineraries consisted mostly of shopping in To Ko Wan or Yeung. Party chairwoman Starry Lee explained that relatively cheaper rents in the district gave rise to souvenir shops and restaurants, which exclusively serve mainland tour groups. As many as 10,000 tourists would visit the residential district in a day, she said, creating problems of noise, hygiene and even safety concerns. The number of inbound tours is expected to soar during the upcoming holidays, and the party called for urgent relief measures such as better traffic control and enforcement by police. In the long run, the party floated the possibility of discussing with mainland authorities to reduce the number of budget tours entering Hong Kong and relocating the shops to the Kai Tak cruise terminal. Carain, Yeung, HKIBC.
A Bar Association council member said it was unwise for the Department of Justice to drop charges against former Chief Executive Yeung without seeking independent advice.
Barrister Eric Shum feared the move had undermined public confidence in the judicial system, even leading to speculation that there were political considerations. Riley Chan reports.
A controversial decision by the Department of Justice not to prosecute former Chief Executive Yeung last week has continued to simmer. In a statement, the Bar Association pointed out the department's failure to seek independent legal advice whilst arriving at a conclusion represents a departure from past convention. Barrister Eric Shum, who sits on the association's council, revealed on radio today the council members reached an unanimous decision to issue the statement after less than 10 minutes of discussion. What upset them, he insisted, was not the decision not to prosecute, but rather the fact that it went against legal precedents.
We
are talking about a $50 million deal, Shum said.